Morning, everyone. Welcome to the Contemporary Issues Sunday School class. We are so pleased today to have our classmate Gene Dawson tell us about an important time in his life that I didn't really know that much about until recently, when Gene told us that he was a bodyguard to Martin Luther King in 1962 and accompanied Martin and the group on their demonstrations in Florida and other places, and was arrested with Martin Luther King and was in the cell right next to Martin during. So we will tell you about those things, and we'll talk about that. And timely with Martin Luther King Day being last Monday, today being National Freedom Day on my calendar, and I had to look that up and see that that was honoring the Emancipation Proclamation signed by Abraham Lincoln. And very timely time in our country to be talking about equality and racial justice. So with that, before we get started, our usual announcement: Zoomers, nice to have you with us. Please mute yourself in the lower left corner of your screen when you're not speaking. And we are going to record this for future playback. I had several folks tell me they couldn't be here, but really want to see this on video. So we will save that for posterity. A couple more chairs in the back, Gene, and if we need any more chairs, we have room. Somebody please grab the chairs. Any other announcements? I'll share a quick thing. Cute thing, Vicki and I went last night to the Buell Theater and saw the Mark Twain one-man show with Richard Thomas. With John Boyd, yes. It was wonderful and so timely that the things that Mark Twain was talking about in 1850, racial equality and religious hypocrisy in the face of that, that applies so much today.
Times don't change.
It was times don't change, right? It was just amazing. And funny things too. Mark Twain was saying that he said, I've been thinking about heaven and hell as I get older. And maybe hell's got a bad rap because I know a lot of people are probably going to go there. So he said, you know, if you think about it, heaven's got the weather, good weather, and hell's probably got a lot of company that would be interesting to be with. So he was such a character. And so if you all get a chance to see that show, it was quite entertaining.
Go to eat before the show?
Yes, we did eat at the Cheesecake Factory.
Hey, Steve,
Yes.
how about Artemis going to the moon? Nobody's even talking about the moon. This is a big deal.
Oh, the
Yeah, like
thing, the launch.
going to the moon.
Uh-huh, yes.
Nobody's even
A
talking.
lot of things. Well, there's so much going on, Peter. Yeah, so much going on. Maybe we can do a time on that. Mary.
Yes.
Oh,
yeah.
And he also performed that with Tom Morello in Minneapolis on Friday. And I just admire him so much. Because of the power when he sees something wrong and I.
Who was this you're talking about, please? Bruce Springsteen, who wrote an anthem for Minneapolis also. Yes. #1 in the world. Very good. Yes, Susie.
My daughter lives in Brooklyn, New York, and I talked to her on Friday, and they went out for dinner to their favorite sushi place. They got to the restaurant and they said it was closed because ICE came and took two of their employees. So they had to close the restaurant.
It was the restaurant because of immigration.
You know, they were pretty upset.
Yes, yes.
I-
Okay.
But I.
No.
Well, we're gonna leave plenty of time for Gene to tell us his story. Now, kids,
Turn the lights on.
we'll have to turn the lights off and put somebody in the corner. We thank you for your attendance today very much, and we want to leave time for Gene. He's going to present for about 20 minutes. He said, and tell us his story. And so hold our questions for about 20 minutes, and then we will ask him, including about corollaries to today, how Gene sees the protest of today as being related to those back then, and the rules of engagement, he said, from back then to today also. We gave some handouts to our folks in the room here today, and one of those is a biography of Gene, and let me just give a couple of highlights of Mr. Gene Dawson. He got his training in psychology and sociology, but he also has a degree from Andover Theological School, and he was an ordained Baptist minister and clergy working at Boston University, and got his PhD from Syracuse in gerontology. Worked at Syracuse on the faculty there, as well as University of North Carolina, and the adjunct professor.
Northern Colorado.
Northern Colorado, a big difference there.
Not a-
That's right. Adjunct professor at Denver Seminary and Iliff. Also director of the Gerontology Center at Swedish Medical Center. Here, social worker, director of the Elder Care Program, and many other accomplishments. So with that, Gene, please tell us your story.
It looks so different being up here. My wife made me do this. There is a statute of limitations, you know, if you're gonna lose it, but you still have most of it. I said most. A little bit like being naked and afraid. They know all about me, Steve. I was a clean Gene until you exposed northern face, northern exposure. Oh, my exposure. It's an honor and it's a privilege. It's also very stressful. I've only done this twice. This is the third time before an audience, because good stress, bad stress. When you talk about trauma and when you talk about being assaulted, some of you in here have probably been assaulted. Don't particularly find it comfortable to talk about it in front of a group. Jail time, not something that usually people put on the resume. But if you're going to expose, if you're going to have a physical, what better group to be exposed to than the group that you seem to draw week in and week out and week in and week out. And this is something that's so timely, and I can see on the faces of people, they want to talk. They want to talk about what's going on, relevance. When we first talked about this, it was about ancient history, 62 years ago. Look what's happening right now. And there's no better person to facilitate a conversation, to probe things, etc. and so forth, than Steve Baskin. But Steve, you didn't give the. There's two important things you left out in introducing me. First of all, I was your newsboy. I carried your newspaper.
Oh.
I delivered the Kansas City Times. You know, it was the Star Times in Pittsburgh, Kansas. That's southeast Kansas. There's a college town. The Gorillas. Now it's Pittsburgh. We've got Pittsburgh State University. Yes, that's right. It was KSTC back. And that started my career actually as a news. We're connected newspaper. You know, I was the carrier. This was back in the 1950s. And then also, I was a bus driver for the Gray Line Company, Colorado Transportation Company here in Colorado. When I was a senior in high school, and then a couple of years in graduate school, drove people up Estes Park. Yeah,
Good. Okay,
the mountains,
very good.
etc. and so forth.
Tell us about the call. How did you get involved with this?
Well, first of all, keep in mind, I'm doing this to to let you know, I'm not necessarily, I don't consider myself a ramble rouser. I was in the Kansas I Speak for Democracy oratorical contest in Pittsburgh, and where you had to defend the Constitution and then extemporaneously talk, not knowing in advance something from the Bill of Rights. And just for the record's sake, to know that I led a kind of a very privileged life, a very mid-American, Midwest. And of course, people from the Midwest have some idea what I'm talking about when I talk in terms of Midwest values and so on and so forth. What happened? Here we go. And they're on my tour bus now. We're getting started, and I'll set the scene for everybody. Early June. We're at Boston University. Let me say, Steve, at the time, I had a half-time relationship with the very historic First Baptist Church of Boston. It's in Copley Square, where Trinity Church, Old South Meeting House, and so on and so forth. And halftime was at Boston University with the United Protestant Ministry. Doesn't that sound good?
Yes.
United Protestant Ministry. That included United Methodist, Presbyterian, Episcopalian, American Baptist. It was during final exam week, as I recall, early June. Call came in from the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. And they said, we need you down here in St. Augustine, Florida. And I know in this class, many people have traveled to many different places and so forth. Why is St. Augustine such a special city in our country?
First city in the United States.
Yeah, okay.
When?
And it was also port of entry, as I recall, for the slaves coming to this country, St. Augustine.
If anybody didn't hear it, first city in the country, St. Augustine,
That's it.
Florida.
That's it. It was also northern Florida. It was a hotbed for the Ku Klux Klan. Somehow northern Florida in particular. There had been some bombings, so-called agitators, because they were promoting integration.
Oh.
And so it had a good deal of significance in a number of ways, historic as well as being a nursery for the Klan. They called and they said, we need you because there have been some bombings, and we realized the significance of the city at the time, and we're also interested in trying to integrate restaurants if at all possible. And the reason they call Boston University is because, as many of you know, Dr. King did much of his head work in thinking, strategizing there at BU. Howard Thurman was the dean. Howard Thurman was a Black theologian, chaplain, and mystic in many ways, pronounced effect on King's development and direction in going the non-violent route as opposed to something more militant. So it was friendly country, and he called BU and he said, we need your help. As I recall, Steve, three of us responded. The Presbyterians, the United Church of Christ congregations, and the American Baptist here myself, I was representing. And, talked to Mary, got her okay, they're going without it. The senior pastor at the church, Steve, this is the importance part of working with persons that, are sympathetic to what you're attempting to do, had been a chaplain in the Korean conflict. And, he backed me up. It was not an easy go because, you know, it was committee of the church as well as the individual at this point. So he said, okay, and go for it. Got the approval. Got on the plane. My partner was Bill England. He was the United Church of Christ Congregational chaplain. He also had been a Marine. Jim, I think you were a Marine at one time, were you not? But you know, okay. Anyway, he had been a Marine in the Korean conflict, and we really didn't know what we were getting into. We knew we would be perhaps arrested, but other than that, probably anything.
And this was your first activity in
Okay.
demonstrations, right?
Here we go. Right.
This was before you were bodyguard for.
Yes, we'll get,
King.
yeah, we'll move to that. Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, we got on the plane, got there, got off, picked up by a student. The reason the student was that the student nonviolent coordinating committee was a part of the Southern Leadership Christian Council. And much like Peter Roderak is with Rotary, it was the junior element of Southern Christian Leadership Conference. Took us to the black part of town, the Negro Ghetto, as people might refer to it today. The reason being that white people were not to be trusted. Now, right there, they get to one of the takeaways here of how your mindset and orientation about race becomes upended in so many ways. That was the only safe place. I commend the couple, elderly, it was an elderly couple, for sharing their house with two agitators, England and Dawson. Okay, and they were so friendly and supportive. Hot, we were upstairs. There were no air conditioners at that time, but they provided a safe haven for us. The first orientation, Steve, was this. If you're going to participate, this is very important on discipline here. If you're going to participate with MLK, Dr. King, you take the oath of nonviolence. So this may be of help to some of you if you ever get caught into a situation like this. First of all, you curl up in a fetal position. Drop to the ground, curl up, protect your head, keep calm. If you can keep calm under those circumstances, that was essentially it.
Okay.
The first march, there were 4 marches. I was not right here. I'll go quickly here. First march was non-eventful. A few names of endearment came our way. Other than that, it was non-eventful. I said, okay. I said, well, no big deal. This is, you know, this much to do about nothing. Like Shakespeare. No.
And King was there leading your group, right?
Well, the orientation was King. Thank you for keeping me on track here. King, Andrew Young became the ambassador to the UN,
Yeah.
and then mayor of Atlanta, as you recall. Okay, and Abernathy was really the, you want to call him a bodyguard. He was the sidekick. He was the sidekick to King in almost any and all events. He was also the one he would spar with as far as humor. Mark's sermon today, very appropriate here. Keep in mind, this is something that not as often is shared. King had great sense of humor. Keep in mind that the night before he was shot, he had a pillow fight with Jesse and Abernathy and Andy Young. The humor part. The second part was, in all the encounters that I had with King, he was always prepared to die, just as Mark was saying today in the sermon. I'll speak to that more directly, but anyway, readiness to die, prepared to die, sense of humor, but he was an introvert by nature.
Okay.
Strong introvert. And when he had to speak, he spoke, as we all know, and eloquent voice and so forth. Second March was in the evening. There was preparation, as I recall, Steve, by both King and Young. Remember, now this is 62 years ago. Always started with a prayer. When I say prayer, I mean deep prayer, soul prayer. It's the helium that lifts the balloon.
Oh, okay.
And we knew that was going to be something different because it was nighttime. Now, the reason for nighttime is this is the strategic use of newspapers, media, publicity. As Whitney once said, better to be hated than ignored, but the main thing is to get the spotlight and just get some attention. We left the church and the singing, we shall overcome. You familiar with that? We shall overcome.
Where was this?
St. Augustine, Florida.
Okay.
Nighttime. Here in Florida, northern Florida, early June, night. You're wet, constantly wet. Okay. We started off and then things began to happen. There was a lot of crying, screaming, agonizing moments. They were throwing acid and bricks. Yes. I had to carry a young man. This is where it gets a little bit emotional for me here. Sorry for that. I had to carry a man who had a broken leg. Young man. They stopped us in the street. King, it was just the headlights. That was all that was saying. They stopped. Police stopped us. Don't have a permit. We refused a permit. Okay. King, as I can recall, did not lose his composure. He may have been like a duck. You know, ducks are very serene on top of the water. Their feet are kicking like you know what. Didn't show it though. That's why I talk about this always being prepared for death. The readiness, you know, straight. Didn't blink. The lights were shining in his face and it was close by, so okay. Make a long story short, they forced us back into the church. Still singing, we shall overcome someday. And there were some more eloquent prayers. Andy Young, our UN ambassador, former mayor of Atlanta, had a big, Alan was a double-sized orange abrasion on his forehead. How he survived that, I don't know. Anyway.
From the bricks that were thrown there?
Bricks thrown at it. Acid. Okay. Not nasty. Certainly not nonviolent. Well, that wasn't all, Steve. That was a warm-up.
Okay.
After some more singing and some prayers, Can we have another march? Now, see, this is where the press comes to be. Press is everything.
Uh-oh.
The press, an investigative reporter like yourself must have been there or something. It got written up. As soon as it got written up, it got the attention of the governor of Florida, got to Kennedy's impression. And the announcement was you got another march coming up. So this is the warm up. This is where you're gonna be tested. And you know exactly what he meant, so we'd already been tested. This time, however, Steve, the highway patrol was there.
Okay,
Big difference.
okay.
The police were infiltrated, are sympathetic to the Klan. That's why they didn't interfere on that earlier march.
Okay.
This time, there were observers, so important as you know from your journalism career. This is where Gene Dawson was going to be tested. And halfway through the march, this guy comes running at me like a windmill.
Okay.
I was very orthodox, and just here's the discipline part, to the ground, fetal position. As he flailed away, kicking, hitting, whatever, you become kind of numb in those moments.
Mm-hmm.
But fortunately, two patrolmen this came flying out of my jacket. They tore the jacket off, and this came flying out. This is a little green Gideon Bible. Are you familiar with Gideon Bibles? Every hotel has it. You might want to carry this instead of a rod or a weapon.
Oh,
Been flying out.
okay. What did he do?
The patrolman came over, Steve. He said, "Here, let me help you up, son."
Okay.
And he gave me this back. He said, "You might need it again."
Oh.
Okay,
Gene, how old were you during this time?
I was Peter Van Arsdale's age when he went to seek the Aborigine.
27?
27.
Yeah, same.
Do we do these things when we're young, Steve?
You're in Florida and I'm in New Guinea at the same time there.
Yeah. Very good.
Okay, third one. Got that. Okay, Gene, now you're gonna be in charge of a group of students. Now, I'm a chaplain. I was doing my job like a fireman or like a mother does or a kind child. I was just doing my job. The students, yeah, okay, I'm supposed to be, responsible for students. I had 12 students.
You were chaplain at Boston University.
Yes. Now I was chaplain of
Baptist.
12.
You were Baptist chaplain.
Yeah,
American Baptist.
now that was the brand.
Okay.
Yeah, liberal. Anyway,
The liberal side of the Baptist.
12 students. We went down to one of the better restaurants in St. Augustine. I won't give you the name because I can't remember it. Anyway,
That's good reason.
I said, "We're here to sample some of your Southern hospitality." He said, "Buddy, you're not gonna get any of our Southern hospitality."
Wow.
Police were called, paddy wagon came, very small paddy wagon. They put all of us in the paddy wagon. Paddy wagon took us to, have any of you been to not to Fort Lauderdale? St. Augustine, have you really been to St. Augustine? Did you ever see the St. John's County Jail or the slave block? Okay. To the jail. My Marine buddy, and I, good to have a partner in these matters. Said we're going to make, first of all, okay, here we go, Steve. We're put in the cell. Next one down, Abernathy, it was Abernathy and King. Abernathy. They were 2 days, we were there 10 days. So we're
You were
going
in
to,
jail 10 days?
no,
Okay,
we decided to add a little bit to it.
okay.
The jail consisted of a cell and then the inner cell. In the inner cell was a convicted murderer, young man, chain smoker, as I recall. Quiet as a mouse, didn't say anything. We were protected from him. But it was just a steel type bed, steel bed, toilet, I think we had. We decided to add a little bit to it. We were gonna fast. It ended up for 10 days. Now, why did we fast? I'm going to need your help here, Peter. We were gonna draw from the playbook of Dick Gregory. Now, who is Dick Gregory? You may not understand.
Yeah, he's a famous activist and comedian who I had the privilege of running a 2-mile race with once in Washington, DC.
Oh my gosh.
A black activist.
Comedian, humor, the importance of humor. Very important.
How many days did you fast or how long?
It's 10 days. Now, this was not the Marriott. Wasn't the Marriott because there was no air conditioning. And there was also a little silo, miniature, like a corn silo, and a green silo. And the problem, the one, it wasn't Southern comfort, it was Southern discomfort. That was because the jailers said, we use that little place up there for people who are not cooperative.
Oh.
And Yankee loving niggers started falling in that category. And they always would keep saying that. So you didn't have a good REM night's sleep at night. Because if you heard that, I'm not going to ask anybody in here who's done any jail time. But, sometimes during the night you'd hear the doors clang shut, open, and you never knew if it was coming for you because the Klan were going in and out, in and out. We were told that they were also going to keep an eye on us. Now that doesn't make for a very restful night. That's just why it's difficult to talk about these things. Doesn't make for a restful night because they were constantly coming in, and we know what to do with you Yankee boys. You know, you're probably the most despicable because you're coming down here, and you're upsetting our way of life. And I can see their perspective from hindsight, looking backwards now. We were upsetting way of life. So we were always under the awareness that we were a possible target. And we were drinking water. We weren't taking showers because there was danger. There was danger, as you might. Well, imagine, not the most healthy state of being, but be that as may, we were released. That's the good news eventually. Now, this is the scary part. By now, we became a celebrity. That's why too much attention. That's why I don't like attention on this particular subject matter. Too much attention can do you in. Sometimes you need attention. You need the press. Sometimes it's just as well to be anonymous and stay that way. Be just clean Gene, you know, let it go.
Yeah.
We were on watch that they were after us. So the students helped the chaplain. Two of the young men, they're very brave, needless to say, looking back on this, because they were putting their lives on the mark, so to speak. You got to go at night. You got to go back to Jacksonville. We'll take you at night, but you got to be in the back seat of the car, and you got to be on the floor. You got to be on the floor. Jackson till St. Augustine to Jacksonville. Catch the flight back to Boston. Here we go on our bus back to Boston. This is on our road trip here, and
Because the Klan members were.
they were after us. That's right. That's what we were after. So we got to do it at night. We got to do it in the dark, and you got to be on the floor. So those brave students put their lives on the line here. Drove us. Got there. We came back. Got to Boston. I think the Herald was there, Boston Herald,
Okay.
not the Globe, but the Herald. Anyway, the little write-up and so forth. I'm gonna jump over the rocks, the Roxbury. That was a Methodist sponsored
Okay.
American Episcopal, African Episcopal sponsored integrated work.
Okay.
Living environment.
Let me just give you a time check. You wanted me to keep you on track.
Thank
You
you.
said
Thank
so
you.
11:07, you want to leave some time for
That's
questions
okay.
too, so.
Happy to know right now.
So, okay, and tell us about the bodyguard time too.
We're coming up, next attraction, next episode.
Okay.
Sounds like Netflix, next.
Okay.
Okay, the interview. It motivated. The head of the board of trustees was very pleased that I was on a 3-year contract. Now, there's something to be said for, and Methodists are good at this, so they rotate their clergy as we all know. And so my time was up, but it wasn't necessarily applauded, be that as it may, but be that as it may, we moved to Roxbury and experienced that. That's another story, but I'm gonna skip over it and get to what you're after here.
Okay.
Because we were identified, and we must have been identified because the CIA, 15 years later, and I don't know what because they have their hands full right now. I mean, they're watching so many people. I don't think their clean gene is no longer under the microscope. But anyway.
CIA knew about you.
Well, they did because our son, back in Syracuse, where I was teaching at the time, he went into the police station with a class on a field trip. And they said, they pulled out a name and they said, did you know that your dad was under watch by the CIA? He got a big kick out of it. He laughed at it. He thought it was a joke. But it wasn't no joke. The interesting thing Steve has up here on the screen a picture of my dad, Papa Senior. Papa.
I did earlier.
I'll have to Google that. But anyway, he had gone with the CIA with a group of educators in higher education to Russia for the CIA. He was with members, and his son had the reputation of being watched by the CIA as being subverted. Isn't that ironic?
Family of desperados.
The reason, in part, because of the affiliation, I guess I had gone from rookie status to a proven commodity.
Sure.
King was going to do a march in Boston. Now, why Boston? Well, Louise Day Hicks.
Closer on the microphone.
Yeah. Louise Day Hicks, superintendent of school of Boston, was a devout segregationist, and there was a lot of uproar. And for you Southerners who have Southern ancestry, problems of racism and prejudice are not just Southern vintage, but they're also very much alive up north as well. We're going to have a march down Columbus Avenue, and I think we met at Bill Russell's restaurant on Columbus Avenue, South Boston, Southie, what they call it. And I volunteered to be, when you say bodyguard, deflect anything that comes towards King, you intercept it.
Oh.
Now, was I being a responsible father, husband, to commit to something like that? Now, you can question that if you want to, but be that as it may, she gave me the okay. And the same names, it's interesting, they didn't say a Yankee, but all the other endearments known to man certainly were expressed, considering what we were doing. But all the time, here Steve is I'm going to conclude almost on this one here. Here's the thing. in all my observations, being right next to King as close as we are, I never saw him flinch. He had that serenity, and a few sermons back, Mark was talking about those effervescent persons.
Yes.
All of you think in terms of people you've known who've had that quality. It was that sense, this guy is in another realm. And if you're connected with him, you are drawn into that realm and you become a part of that realm. So the names and what the experiences involve. So let's say, going back to the duck again, there's water off the duck's back in a sense. So the strength was in the leadership and the discipline. And we got through that. Just the names, just everything that goes with it and so forth. So, okay, the final note. Mary and I had the opportunity for a reception after all this had transpired and so forth. At BU, their March chapel that included Coretta King, Andrew Young. That was it. Myself, Bill Lehman. And I want to put in a plug for Coretta King. You don't hear much about this. You hear very little about this. If you want to hear more, you want to learn more, this is the book, came out a couple of years ago. Everything, a very human accounting, very human in all respects. She was trained as an opera singer at Boston Conservative Music. She is the most elegant, graceful person I think I've ever met. The dignity, queen-like. You can see how Martin kept it together, having someone like her by his side. Not only did she keep the home together, you can read about that in the book here, but her presence, every bit as strong as Martin Luther King. King would not have done what he did and able to do it if he hadn't had credit in and of herself. I want to say that. We had the pleasure and good fortune of talking with them. They were so comfortable with us. Keep in mind, they had many white friends. They were so comfortable interfacing. The whole strategy was to liberate and to heal both the oppressed and the oppressor. If you ever read the book, The Body Knows the Score, it's hard to live the lie to say the Constitution, the Bill of Rights are for one people and not the rest. You might not think it's eating on you, but it is. And King was wanting to heal. There is a balm in Gilead was his favorite hymn. Remember the auto spiritual? There is a balm in Gilead. Okay, very good. I just want to press on you the dignity and the ease in the relationship, and why he had so many white supporters and advocates was because it wasn't a race thing so much, it was healing America. Healing America. So I would say, Steve, at this point, like Paul Harvey used to say, WGN, that's the rest of the story.
We remember Paul Harvey.
Great. Let's do questions. I'll start off with a question. What do you think King would say about the protest today? Would he be focusing on nonviolent sit-ins and?
That was too much a part of it. He was the Orthodox Christian. It was we've had, let's see, we had the Civil War, we had the Revolutionary War. Then the women put on their hats and their heels and their gloves, and the suffragettes and women got the right to vote. And I don't believe they used violence, although they may have used the writing rules at their disposal to convince them. And then we have King's nonviolent approach. King was Orthodox as far as Christian, Judeo-Christian values, etc. So nonviolent. He probably, yes, he would be. Look what he did to the Vietnam War. So I'd say he'd be another presence. Yes.
Okay, you hang on too.
Okay.
Go ahead, let's do questions. Eric.
Gee,
Mhm.
have you been to the King Center, in Atlanta?
Yes.
I did the
Yes,
I did the MLK walk 2.5
Yes.
years ago and, saw his house and,
Yeah.
visited the King Center. I really enjoyed that.
You're right. Peace at last, peace at last. Thank God Almighty for peace at last. They're the grace, yeah.
It's part of the National Park Service.
Okay,
You've got a microphone, it's coming.
okay.
Steve O'Neill.
Gee, you signed up for something and it's clear that you didn't know what you were signing up for.
True. I see, you're right.
Okay, so you're in the middle of this and I'd like to know about your faith. And I'd like to know about how did you make it through this? What onion layers did you go through as you were discovering this? What happened with you and your faith as you?
Good question. You remember the phrase in World War II, there are no atheists in the foxhole? How many times I said the 23rd Psalm?
You know, I walked through the valley.
I think what Mark was talking about a few weeks ago about those effervescent moments where you're taken into another realm. You're a part of something so big, you become absorbed in that, and with those around you and so forth, that it's just a very special experience in time. It's an emotional one. That's why I have a little difficulty speaking to groups about this, but be that as it may, yeah, I would say it did it rid me of all my prejudice? No, I think I probably suffered what some of you deal with. Not completely uncontaminated, but much less fearful and much more appreciative of having persons of color as friends. I mean, it's certainly strength of that. And as Peter Van Arsdale said when he talked to people who've never been talked to before by non-indigenous, makes you more human. I think, Peter, I would say humanity, particularly the Black folks who put themselves along. And keep in mind that you can't trust white people. In other words, the people I could trust were the people of color, not white people. And that's a retrofitting of the mind and the position when you're friends of the blacks and your enemies are the whites. Now that still has an impact on me today. It would to you if you were in my shoes. If you'd be doing the same thing, probably be experiencing the same response.
Okay.
Jean,
Yeah.
Jean, did it make you angry? And how did you deal with that? You weren't angry at what was happening to you? Okay.
Misguided. I bought into King's love overcomes hate. Hate doesn't overcome hate. Only love overcomes. I'm not a pacifist by nature. I don't consider it, but certainly at that moment in time, in that context, and considering what was being dealt with, he was a strategist. He'd spent years. He had cultivated this with white colleagues. He'd been in Boston University, Methodist institution founded by the Methodists. I always liked that. And it was healing. And Vicky, I didn't feel anger. Yeah, some fear. Pastor was scared.
Yeah.
My wife was scared. What were you scared about, Bernie?
I was scared that you weren't coming back.
Yeah. And Mary, take the microphone for just a second and tell us why you were scared at that time.
Well, I had a strong Christian faith and I did believe in God, that God was looking over my husband, but I still didn't know what was going on there. I was in Back Bay, Boston, in an apartment with our new baby, and I felt kind of distanced, but I got through it somehow.
And he was able to call you from there and tell you what was going on?
We didn't have cell phones.
No cell phones, yeah.
No selfies.
No calls, no. I
Wasn't
didn't-
able
I
to
didn't
call from the jail in those 10 days? Wasn't able to call? Wow,
Only after they released his.
only after they released you, so you didn't know where he was for 10 days? My gosh, okay, Ron and then Lowell.
When you sat down in the St. Augustine restaurant, they refused to serve you and they kind of arrested you right there? Or did you go outside, get in a march, and then get arrested?
It was right at the door, right at the door. Yeah.
They arrested you at the door?
Yeah.
On what basis? You know, just, we don't like you guys?
Disturbing the peace. Trespass. What was the other one? Instigating a riot or something. It sounds a little bit like Minneapolis in some ways.
Okay, okay.
Interesting, yeah, interesting.
We have the.
I also want to put in a plug. We have up here, the DVD Mississippi Burning, starring Gene Hackman,
Uh-huh.
which deals with the killing of the 3 civil rights workers in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And then, Mrs. Goodman, who's one of who lost her son in that killing of the 3 civil rights workers, wrote a book, My Masterpiece, My Mantelpiece. That's up there in the books.
Okay,
you.
very good. We're gonna go microphone forward, please. Whoever has it, Mary, pass forward here. Lowell's got a question, and then I'm gonna ask our Zoomers if any of them have a question.
No, I don't have a question.
Oh, you didn't? Okay, pass it to Larry. Sorry, Lowell, I thought you did.
Gene, do you think there's anyone today with the purpose and ability to do what King did? Is there anyone today that can do anything to calm this nation down and get us moving in a different direction, like King did?
It's interesting you asked. That's a good question because I think all of us has observed of what we pick up from the media, the various sources and so forth, that the church, broadly defined, is becoming more involved. And I heard a bishop, Archbishop back in New Jersey the other day talk about moral law and moral protests. Well, it's the rules of the rules of encountered, Steve, violent or non-violence. Some people are responding to violence. Is King's non-violent still in vogue? Does it have a place? But as I see, the church is becoming more involved. Back in Minneapolis, we may be turning the corner as far as the moral aspects of, and particularly as it relates to faith, persons of faith, communities of faith. And that's for all of us to address. Your call, whenever you get your call, whenever that might be, in whatever way. And keep in mind the Marine, should you get incarcerated, close down and live from within if captured. Close down.
Yeah.
That's what we kind of did. That's what got us through 10 days. And keep in mind, the First Amendment guarantees the rights to free speech, press, peaceful assembly, and petitioning the government. Underscore peaceful. We're protected, peaceful. So I think the question, Steve, you were addressing with public kingdom, it would be peaceful, peaceful. He went by the book. He went by the book. Just wanted to make the Constitution live for everybody. That's all. Just want the integrity doing so peaceful, peaceful. So it would be peaceful. And I think as the churches become a little more involved, we might see, it'd be interesting. It's going to be interesting to watch.
Interesting. I want to ask our Zoomers if they want to make a comment or a question. If you do, go right ahead. If you don't, that's okay. All right, just wanted to give you a chance there. Gene, do you think churches should be more involved today, for example? Should they be taking a stand and calling for people to protest, or should they be politically neutral on some of these things?
Oh, I'd like to hear the answer on this one.
No, you can't pass on that.
Well, with the dynamics going on in Christendom right now, Catholic as well as Protestant and Jewish, because of Gaza and everything that's transpired, getting unanimity and support. certain denominations seem more active in this than others. I mean, if you did a kind of a litmus test, closer see. Yeah, should they? I think so. I think the way Felmar addresses these issues, so not to polarize, is the way to go. I really do. It's a moral law. It's moral law. What is basic morality, regardless of what your faith perspective might be? What the integrity of the moral law, yeah, moral protest, conscience, your conscience. Each one of you in this room has to deal with your conscience, your call, what you see as your contribution, what you being led to do.
Yeah.
And I take a very liberal approach on this. Everyone determines that for themselves, and all of you are doing that, I'm sure, knowing some of you as I do, that you're doing that. It's for you to decide what your call is and how you're going to respond. But the church should do uniformly, I'd be open to comments about the people feel about this.
An interesting question. Yeah. We've got just a few minutes left. Rosalinda, go ahead. Use the microphone, please.
I grew up after the war in Germany.
Just pull it up. It's okay, you're okay.
And I recall Hitler was really against the black people too,
Yes.
and the Jews.
Oh, yes.
And, yeah,
Oh, yes.
and if you did something that they didn't like for instance, as kid, you know, when we were little, we would play down in the Rhine River with the black people and the green people, whatever, you know, and yet they would come and get us out of there. We were not allowed to play with these kids, you know. So I remember that, and you know, it took me to come to the States, or no, it started in Germany because I lived near Bonn, where the American embassy was, and they had drivers, you know, that were white. And the people that were driven were black because they were from overseas, you know, from countries with black people, you know. And I got to know some of them. And I tell you, you know, and I was surprised, they're real people. You know? It is easy to be geared in one or the other direction. And when you grow up that way, it takes some, you know, experiences, because like I said, you know, I found people afterwards there in the embassy, they were driven around by white people, you know, and I asked, I said, what is going on? Well, they come from this country and the people are all black. Well, I said, why do you make such a big deal here about it then? Well, that's the way the government tells us to be, you know?
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
What stories we have here at St. Anne? You don't for the stories people had. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I
Ann,
was
go ahead.
teaching in Boston.
Use the microphone, Ann.
I was teaching in Boston in the late 60s, and in anticipation of the class today with you, I couldn't remember how old Martin Luther King was when he died. So I looked it up. He was only 39 years old.
Wow. Oh, I didn't
So
realize.
thank you
that.
so much for today.
Yeah.
It's been wonderful.
Yes.
Gene, I just wanted to thank you for being here today and sharing the history and the stories.
Thank you, Jim. We just have a couple minutes left. Gene, what did you feel like when you heard the news that King had been killed? What went through your mind that night?
I was teaching at George Williams College, a YMCA school, college in Chicago. And it erupted because we had a lot of students from the South Side. And one of the students went after me for being a racist because she was so overcome with the tragedy of what was happening. Well, the king always predicted this, you know. You can't help but make the comparison with Jesus. Jesus knew he was going to die and he was prepared. King was prepared. You know, it was fulfilled. You can't do what he did and pay the price. It's just tremendous sadness, and then being in Chicago at the time and having so many of the students from the South Side and so forth. We went into a tailspin. We had to close the school, and that's another story, Steve.
Wow, close the school.
Oh, yeah, yes, sensitivity training, faculty, sympathetic faculty had to be sensitized, you know. It was a major upheaval because he was so important as a symbol of resilience and strength. And even though he had critics in this book, it wasn't an easy go. This was controversial. Anytime you confront the status quo, change, they say it's not easy, but major social change. I mean, you're called into line and you suffer the consequences.
Yeah.
But it seems like so many good people have to give it their all, and that means their life. But it was a major upheaval and a major sense of emptiness and shock. But you know, we go on.
Very good. Okay. Well, thank you, Gene, for sharing with us and for being there and discussing your opinion. Thank you, everybody. Next week, our speaker is Rev Jerry about the rosary. He likes to use the rosary as part of his prayer life, and he's going to talk about the prayer life in general. So hope you'll come back next week. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Yeah. So you say.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for your comments, Ann. Were you teaching in Boston or?
We're teaching in Newton, just west of Boston.
That's where we live.